ahead. Play the clip. Come on.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
That's my mayor.
Come on. Wow. Yeah. That's a good way to enter the show. Yes. Welcome to This Week in White Supremacy. Wow, a Muslim mayor, biggest city in the United States. I mean, we have a lot to say. We'll get into Mamdani madness sweeping across the United States and the world. I'm Jasiri X. I'm co-founder and CEO of One Hood Media. On the road today, and I am joined by my illustrious, wonderful hosts, including you. And you were just in New York, Miracle, right? You were feeling. Were you feeling? Was the energy in the air?
The energy was in the air. What's up, you girl, Miracle, aka Big Blessing, Big Blessing. The energy was like in the air. It was cool to see like the Zohran signs everywhere. I had like my little pins. So now to have like Zohran win, it's very interesting to see. I'm very happy for people because like, there's a lot of things we're gonna get into, but I'm just very happy. I was very happy.
Come on, let's go. And my brother.
Yeah, man. Today I am a proud Muslim American immigrant who is a former resident of the People's Socialist Islamic Republic of New York City. And I would love to congratulate Ayatollah Mamdani on his win over capitalism and imperialism and all the other isms that stand to oppress Black and brown people in the Muslim world.
Somebody said,
I hope when I get back to New York, I get my halal cart, my tea set.
Yes.
You know, I want all of that, man. I'm getting like 3 shawarma. I'm getting chicken over rice, everything, bro. I'm going there. I might go Times Square and just make salat in Times Square.
Just right in the middle.
Just right in the middle, man.
Somebody tweeted.
I think that needs to be the first law that Mamdani passes in New York is have the Adhan playing.
Strictly for prayers.
Just have the Adhan playing from Empire State Building. Just you know what I mean? For every prayer, Allahu Akbar. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious. And it was kind of cool to see, even, he did the commercial in Arabic. You know what I'm saying?
Like, man, I pre that.
Somebody tweeted, Grubhub and NYC defaulting to halal food, can't even uncheck the box. Watch it, man. Watch it. So again, like you said, New York, and like you, brother, Farouk, rapper. Remember, Mamdani was an MC. You know what I'm saying?
I've still never heard any of his raps, and I kind of want to stay away from that part of him. Pause. I just want to experience the mayor and politician.
You have to experience all of him, the raps, the acting.
Pause. That was crazy.
You have to take them all in, Farouk.
No, stop. Just breathe through your nose. Just breathe through your nose. Now, what I was saying is you have to experience him because I think it goes towards the type of people that are running for office. Because people who real live experience. So think about art makes the world go round, and who better to talk about making a difference and a change in society than an artist, right? Someone who sees the world, views the world, and engages the world as it is, but also has the insight to understand what the world should be. That's what I was saying,
And I would say, to echo your point, Miracle, artists also know, one thing you learn by being an artist is how to appeal to other folks, right? How to market your art, you know what I'm saying? What is appealing? What do people like to hear? What do they want to hear? A lot of times as artists, we experiment with how our art is going to make the maximum impact on the world. I did a workshop. I'm in Salvador, Brazil at the Global Artivism Summit. and I did my workshop yesterday, and somebody asked me that question. They were saying, hey, do you think one of the reasons why Mamdani is successful is because he was a former hip hop artist? And she was asking, she was like, do you think other hip hop artists can also come into this space I was talking about? You know, you have the brother Do It All, who's on council in Newark, New Jersey. You know, Ras Baraka, the mayor of New Jersey, is also, you know, hip hop political convention. You know,
over the Fugees album, Lauryn Hill's album
was almost a governor. You know, you had, you know, so it's there's a history of hip hop artists. I mean, obviously, Shine and Belize, doing what he's doing. So I do think that particularly as hip hop grows older, you're going to see more artists get involved in using that capital. But you know, he ran such a I don't know what I said.
We forgot somebody.
Who we forget?
Apac Shakur, Hank Jeffries, hapless Hank Jeffries.
Wait, Hank Jeffries was no rapper. He was a rapper.
Uncle Luke run for something as well in Miami.
I mean, I think Uncle Luke is the default mayor, but I don't think he necessarily ran for anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, I think he's the default mayor.
Well, I know there's other rappers we're definitely missing.
There definitely is. I mean, you know, Ron Pence just was elected to Chicago School Board.
Right.
Yeah, so there is. But again, like, you know, Mamdani ran this. I think when he first started, he was polling like below 1%. And to go from there to, you know, New York had record turnout. They said the highest turnout in 3 decades in New York City. He really won by a landslide, you know what I'm saying? Even with Eric Adams dropping out, and thank God the Eric Adams era is over, and hopefully it never, ever, ever comes back. The Cuomo era is over. Cuomo, go do whatever it is you was, I mean, and again, like, you know, Cuomo.
I don't think we want Cuomo to go back to doing what he was doing, because that was highly illegal.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we want Cuomo. We want Cuomo held accountable. We don't want him going back to doing what he was doing. That
would be great. And same with Eric Adams. But I mean, again, because Trump's in office, Eric Adams, you know, possibly won't be held accountable for the fraud he committed. But it was but it was not just in New York. It was kind of this Democratic sweep, right? And you know, it was, I don't know, Dick Cheney just didn't want to see. Dick Cheney didn't want to see a Muslim take power.
Man, the architect of the war on terror.
Dick Cheney said, "I'll die before I see a Muslim take power."
And God said,
New York.
"Gotcha."
We have a moment.
Said, I got you, man.
Do we want to do our for Dick Cheney a moment of noise?
So we're gonna have a you know, traditionally when people pass, specifically in the political world or those of influence, we as a society tend to hold a moment of silence. On this week in white supremacy, we decided we were going to hold a moment of noise for the passing of Dick Cheney. Let's go.
A moment of noise.
May all the people who traffic in war, genocide, and famine have
the Lord of War, Dick Cheney.
But with The Hague as their final resting place, and not the comfort of their home, inshallah.
Or the hellfire.
Like, yes.
So Miracle, I did want to ask you a question before we move off Mamdani.
I like to stay.
You like to stay on Mamdani? You like to?
Is he married?
Yes, his wife is so beautiful. Yeah. And people have been like, disparaging her for forever, because they were like, behind every man is a terror-hating woman. And I was just like, I see the future, and I would like that for myself. But right now is her. She's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, and they're right. They were like, she's aloof. They did everything they tried to do. The New York Post ran a headline where Mamdani's holding up a crescent moon and a sickle, like, oh, communism coming there. You know, so all of this fear mongering, but at the same time, it's like like Miracle was talking about earlier in New York, the hope for Mamdani, was stronger than the fear that they tried to to force people not to vote for him. I saw a video that I thought was very powerful, and I want to kind of talk to you about it, Miracle. And basically, it was I think it was a young Dominican brother, and he was saying like today, he was talking about election day. He said today is the last day I can really celebrate Mamdani, because he said tomorrow when he's mayor, now my job is to hold him accountable. Now my job is to make sure that he comes through on the promise, on the changes that he promised, And so there was a lot of, Cuomo's biggest critique was Mamdani never had a job and he's young, and a lot of people were kind of characterizing his ideas as these like wild ideas that he'll never be able to do. We know, all of these billionaires rallied against him to try to stop him. And a lot of these people are in power currently. They have a list. Time Magazine had a list of the billionaires who failed to stop Mamdani, how much they spent. Michael Bloomberg spent $13 million. The Lauder family, $2 million. The guy who founded Airbnb, Joe Gebbia, $2 million. Bill Ackerman, $1.7 million. So you have all these people. So will Mamdani, or do you think Mamdani will be able to do the policies and enact the policies that he said? And now that we're again, because remember that moment, I remember 2008 when Obama got elected and we were very happy, and then he picked his cabinet. Everybody was like, wait a second. And, for Obama, I feel like we didn't get the return on the yes, we can hope that we wanted. You know what I mean? And, in hindsight, so do we have to begin to organize to kind of press Mamdani? Do we give him some grace period? And what do you think he'll be able to enact the policies that he ran on?
And here's why. I think people have learned that people are not going to just be satisfied with having first, right? People are hungry. They want something different. They want actual action. And that's the first thing. The second thing, he is still a Muslim man. And so he doesn't get to have the same grace that others have had before him to make mistakes, to learn on the job. People want results. People want results fast. The third thing is he is bringing along a coalition of folks. And I will juxtapose his race with our Pittsburgh mayoral race. When anti-blackness showed up in the Pittsburgh race and the mailers went out, the Democratic establishment just allowed Ed Gainey to flounder and be there by himself, be called a monkey, and didn't do anything about it, didn't condemn it, didn't say this was unacceptable. In prior elections, when people came after Congresswoman Summer Lee, people banded together and was like, we cannot have this in our elections. Nobody did that for Ed Gainey. But with Mamdani, everybody came together and was like, we're not going to have this Islamophobia. We're not going to have this anti-blackness. You're not going to pit our communities apart. And people really mobilized and pushed back. He created his own infrastructure around news. He created his own media infrastructure, and he created his own community so that there are people lined up even next year to run against all the people who did not endorse Mamdani or come for his vision. So he has a long-term strategy. And you've seen that where people have said the amount of money that the billionaires and billionaires spent against Mamdani so he would not have won is the exact amount of money that he needed to allow for the buses to be free, to allow for those 3 grocery stores, to allow for the support. So the money is already there. So now there's no excuse, Bill Ackman, now there's no excuse, Cuomo, now there's no excuse for anyone to sit there and say this cannot be done because the amount of money was already there. So now people are going to have to show and prove, and now people have to organize. He is already with his police commissioner keeping Tish there has already ruffled some feathers, but he's saying, look, I am going to give this person an opportunity for a second chance and to put through my vision. I'm going to allow these folks to stay on. And if they do not stay on, they're gone. But I'm going to give people the opportunity that they did not give me to make this city affordable for all of us. And because he has this inclusive vision, he already knows there's going to be pitfalls. He already knows that people are going to try to set him up and make sure that he cannot succeed. But he is doing something different. And I think that because there are people who supported him and valued him, that things are going to be able to change for New York. And I also think that there is a fervor happening in the world where people want something different, right? As Van Jones said, people go on their phones and all they see is genocide and death. They want to have hope. They want to see policies that make their lives better. And Mamdani represents that. But not only just Mamdani, Virginia had their first Muslim elected to statewide office. The state of Georgia, the first Black woman elected to statewide office. Detroit, the first Black woman mayor. Even here in Pennsylvania, a lot of Black mayors were either elected for their first time or reelected because people actually want change and policies that are responsive to what's going on in the conditions of the city and the people without the anti-Blackness and bigotry. And they've been able to do that because people have supported them in ways that Mayor Ed Gainey did not get. And so I think that is something that we're going to be looking at, is seeing that people are more invested. You have more people getting involved in these electoral races, in part because there are people who are responding to their ideas. And I think that is what we're seeing, is that people want change, they're going to demand change. And that, more than anything, is going to be the reason why Mamdani is going to be successful.
Yeah, it definitely very much seems like this Obama moment. Even the rally and the speaking and everybody engaged. Last question, and this is for Miracle and you too, Farouk. Do we see this actually changing the Democratic Party? Right? We already mentioned we mentioned hapless Hank Jeffries. We Chuck Schumer didn't even endorse Mamdani. You know what I mean? These are the current heads of the Democratic Party. There's people want AOC to run against Schumer, and take Schumer's Senate seat. She hasn't said she was going to. We're not sure. Our own senator in Pennsylvania, hopefully not for much longer. Fetterman was very critical, openly critical of Mamdani, saying he wasn't a Democrat or didn't believe he was a Democrat. Again, Mamdani is probably as popular as Fetterman is unpopular currently in the Democratic Party. So does his popularity, just the fact that he rallies so many young people, and there's I'm in Brazil and people got Mamdani fever. It's almost like a Mamdani fever all over the place. Will that cause the Democratic Party to pivot and change and do something different moving forward due to this resounding victory?
I think if they want change, they'll pay attention. But I said this a few weeks about Trump, about him either being so arrogant or so jaded that I'm not sure which one he's more of. The same thing with the Democratic Party. It's evident just by their Johnny come lately support for Ayatollah Mamdani that they don't understand messaging. Right? I'm surprised no one has yet. But anyway,
they're going to.
Ayatollah just means son of God. So
yeah.
But anyway, no, I think that the Democratic Party, they've shown time and time again that they don't understand messaging. They don't understand their voting base. They're just completely out of touch with this new wave of voters, right? They don't really have the pulse point. And it seems to me, just by their, I don't know, maybe their aloofness, that they're just not interested. They're not interested in changing, changing of the guard.
He don't really like you. He's not texting you back. He's not. He's not.
You know what I mean?
Consistently, he don't really like you.
Yeah, so it's I don't know if they have a vested interest in amending the status quo. And it's crazy to me because the talking point over the last few months is where the Republicans have been succeeding is they understand messaging. Right. They understand the ability or the importance of getting out in front of their constituency, getting out in front of issues that are important to their voting base. Whether they follow through on them or not, that's not really the question. It's the fact that people want to see you try something. Yeah. Right. And I don't think the Democrats have just been stagnant. And I think they're okay with the complacency. I honestly would like to sit here and say, okay, well, maybe this is going to be that shining moment, that Zohran Mamdani is going to be the shining Democratic star to kind of lead the party out of darkness. But I think really what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of these young people who came to the polls in droves in New York City in record numbers be ultra critical of this bipartisanship and start demanding something perhaps like a third party or an alternative party that they can align themselves with. Because if we're looking at the political spectrum, where does really Zohran Mamdani now fit on the left-right spectrum, right? And because we all know that like American politics are all just varying shades of right, where does someone like Mamdani sit? Where do a lot of these new voters see themselves? And I think like you mentioned, like the Obama moment, I think that this is with these young people and what I've been seeing online and social media, people have a new interest in politics, local politics, which is great. I think this is the first time in a long time, perhaps in the social media era, that we've seen such a fervor for local electeds, down ballot elections. Right. I think this is the first time. So it might take a little bit of time for it to catch on nationwide with like a lot of the voting bases. But I think that we're at the doorstep of something new.
Yeah, I mean, and just to, before I come to you, Miracle, like you said, I mean, how Mamdani won was so different than how the Democrats have been approaching things, because a lot of times these national Democrats have been approaching it in the way of like, we need donors. So the focus hasn't been on the voters and what people actually want on a level. It's been what messaging can we give that's going to give that we don't alienate our donors and alienate this kind of like billionaire, multimillionaire class that gives to our election. Remember, the first thing that hapless Hank did after Trump's victory was go sit down with the tech bros, right? We want to make sure that these super wealthy folks are on our side. And what Mamdani did, he shattered so many glass ceilings because, one, he ran on affordability. He ran directly in opposition to these multimillionaire donors. Not only did he run on affordability, he also ran a campaign that was openly critical of Israel. And that was like in previous years, that was like, oh, you could never win particularly a seat like mayor of New York and be critical of Israel, right? And he was able to show something that, people have been saying for a very long time, that critique of Israel is not anti-Semitism. Similarly, like to a critique of the foreign policy of the United States or the policy of the United States isn't anti-American. Like we can critique governments and governmental structures, and that's not a critique of all the. If I'm critique Mexico's policy, that doesn't make me anti-Mexican. But for whatever reason, that's how it was presented. So he was able to be and won in a landslide and won the votes of a lot of Jewish people. So a lot of what he did flew in the face of what the Democrat thought you had to do to win. So it'll be fascinating to see if. Like he kind of almost broke some imaginary shackles that maybe people had. So it does make me want to know if folks are getting bolder. I'm coming to you, Miracle. Remember when Eric Adams won? He was immediately kind of like lifted as like the new face of the Democratic Party. Remember they said that about Eric? God.
Yeah, I remember. I was there. I was there.
Face of the Democrat, and people were actually thinking Eric Adams could run for president. Do we think the same thing again? Like we're seeing high-ranking Democrats not even openly embrace this brother.
And they're about to be voted out. So you have the DSA, you have the Working Families Party, you have the surge of like third, quote unquote, far left alternative parties who are doing the ground game, who are doing the door knocking. Let's be very honest. I put it on my social media. The difference between last night and last year was that the ban on progressives, the ban on Muslims, the ban on Palestinians was eroded, right? Like I said, in other places, you had Muslims and Muslims and progressives running for office. My proudest moment is the person not related to me named Jay Jones in Virginia, right? He had a whole texting scandal. You can look up the texting scandal. But he was basically like, nah, I'm not playing with y'all. Y'all are not good people, and I'm not going to pretend that y'all are good people. His texting scandal involved him saying that he was going to unalive people and their families from a different party because that's how frustrated he was with this political process, right? That would have never happened 5 years ago. That would have never happened 6 years ago. He'd been forced to drop out. But like, no, people want something different. They're done with the anti-blackness. They're done with the Islamophobia. They're done with the racism. They are done with billionaires destroying our ecosystem, in part because we've been educating voters about what's been going on for the past 5-10 years since Citizens United. We've been talking about the Jeff Yass, the Elon Musk of the world, who are literally trying to pit our communities against each other. We've also been talking about a better world being possible. And instead of being like, yes, I can, or yes, we can, like, this is actually possible and probable, and this is how we can do it, right? A lot of people always want to say, well, how can you fund this? Well, how can you fund these genocides? Well, how can this happen? Well, how do we always have money for all these wars and weapons? You know, even Pennsylvania, we've gotten like 5 million for SNAP, but there were 60 million for Israeli bonds. So what is the difference that's going on in our communities and why? And those are the things that we are addressing and we're not letting up. And I think that is what the difference is. We saw from the Obama situation, people go, oh my God, he's a great person. But you forget the Congressional Black Caucus went against Obama. He did not have allies. People wanted him to fail. So now we understand when we come to these positions of power, we don't have friends. We have people who do not want to see us winning. And we have to have outside coalitions that are making differences, that are holding people accountable, that are making people sit there and say, what are your values and what are you going to fight for? Because we understand the reality of the world, you're going to have to negotiate. But like, you know, here in Pittsburgh, Alex Rose ran as the Labor Party. So now there's only one Republican in county council. Never happened before. Working Families Party took out Republicans in the city, you know, there. So people are now, to what Fruit's point is, there are now third parties coming up and saying, okay, if y'all not going to do this right, then you're going to have to do it. You know, even Spangberger, who didn't even like Mamdani, was forced to talk about an economic populism message and how she was going to fight to make it more affordable by taking on corporations, by taking on landlords, by taking on billionaires. So that thing of the donors being able to have, like, you know, carte blanche to do whatever is ending. And that's like the biggest change that we are seeing. I think that, and people don't like when I say this, I think Luigi made people understand that, like, folks are hopeless and they have access to weapons and something is going to have to change. And the only way to de-radicalize people is to give people an opportunity to have something to believe in and to have material change. And so if you look at the numbers, there were tons of men who voted in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, people who were radically brought in, people who were talked to. There were, you know, Black people were the largest, and this is also something I think is very important. Mamdani's largest vote percentage were Black people. The same Black people who said, folks that didn't want to be progressive, the same Black people folks said were anti-immigrant, the same Black people folks said were Islamophobic, the same Black people folks said were transphobic and homophobic. Black people were the largest vote getters of Mamdani because Black people are progressive, because our politics are collective, right? We may have very religious viewpoints of the world, but we understand through, you know, our liberation theology that everyone should have an equal chance and everyone should be housed and everyone should be educated. And I think that this should be, you know, the last time that the Black electorate is overlooked in progressive spaces. There should be no reason why Black people do not get mailers, why Black people do not get calls, why Black people do not get texts, why Black people are not at these events. If you look at even here in Pennsylvania with our court races, there were so many Black events. There were so many Black folks who were targeted. There were so many Black influencers who were asked to be a part, who were engaged, and who were radically themselves. And that has never happened before in the Pennsylvania landscape. Let's be very, very clear about why these wins are happening, right? When you pour into Black people, when you pour into Black organizations, when you pour into Black organizing, everybody wins and democracy is better for it. And so I do think that something is different because we've learned from the mistake of our elders and our ancestors. And day one, we are making demands. Day one, we are demanding something different. And I think that's what we're going to have to be able to see and have to be able to do and to engage. And so it's going to be very important. But I'm happy for New York. I want to be in New York, but it's cold. I don't like winter. So, I'm still oppressed, even though the world is getting better. And lastly, I do think that Mamdani being anti-Israel won. And I think that people have to understand that militarism and policing is not a winning message, that we deserve policies that produce life, that support life, and allow us to be able to create and curate and have envisionings of a future that does not include bombs and death and genocide and environmental terrorism and anti-blackness. And that is the crux of the Hope campaign. Obama said, we can, but it was more of a theory. Mamdani said, we will have a better world, and it's going to be based on affordability because we're not going to invest in a death empire and a killing industry. I think those are small differences, but that is the reason why so many people are like, there was so many like, oh, I voted for Mamdani, I'm from Utah, I voted for Mamdani, and I'm from like some European country, right? Because people understood. And I would also say, lastly, every single Pennsylvania politician was asked about Mamdani and was asked about his stances on Israel. So even if they didn't agree with it, they were forced to go on record about their policies. And next year, that is going to be something that people are going to have to stand on and rectify with, because people now know we can have something different. We can have politicians who are not beholden to death industries, and they're going to want that for their own cities and their own regions.
So, and I would just say, I wouldn't characterize Mamdani as anti-Israel. I would characterize him as critical, because he talked about Israel having the right to exist. That whole piece. But he did speak very clearly about states that are only, like every state should be equitable for everybody and anybody who lives there. And he was able to make that point very clearly and obviously push back against what we saw happening in Palestine. And I think it's that line, right? Because if you are a politician, you're talking about, better lives for everybody. And kind of like what you said to just even begin the conversation, Miracle. And I'm Muslim and I don't see myself included in everybody. If I'm Black, I don't see myself included. I'm an immigrant, I don't see myself included. Mamdani was able to articulate that vision for everybody, where everybody felt included in it. And it wasn't like that exclusionary piece that we saw happen last year, where it was like, oh, I'm not a person that can be, they're not talking about me in that inclusivity conversation. But like you mentioned, when you mentioned Black voters also came out en masse for Abigail Spanberger. I knew I was going to mess her name. Abigail Spanberger, the first female governor elected Democrat in Virginia. It said in Georgia, Alicia Johnson and Peter Hubbard became the first Democrats to win non-federal statewide election in nearly 20 years. In Pennsylvania, where we are, 3 liberal justices won another 10-year term on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, allowing Democrats to maintain a 5-2 majority. And in California, voters supported Prop 50, approving a new congressional map designed to boost Democrats in 2026. Also, you had Democrats voted in the governor, Mickey Sherrill. I think she's also she's the governor now of New Jersey. So it was this clean Democratic sweep that was clearly a pushback to Donald Trump's policies. Trump's response was, the reason was because of Trump wasn't on the ballot and the quote unquote shutdown, even though people was like, no, you were on the ballot. The reason people came out in droves to vote for something different because of you in all these categories. And I saw a poll where it had 18 or 34, had all these categories. Trump is not popular. He's not popular now. And so obviously now Trump is calling for sweeping change. Trump said pass voter reform, voter ID, no mail-in ballots, save our Supreme Court from packing, terminate the filibuster, because we've gotten into now the longest, we're at a point where this is the longest government shutdown ever. You know what I'm saying? So obviously Trump took a lot of losses. The Democrats took a lot of losses. Any kind of comments on, you know, was it a referendum on Donald Trump? Was this, you know, fuck you, Donald Trump? You've doing such a bad job that this is going to turn the tide?
You know, I think it's interesting that the more and more Donald Trump is pushing and his administration are pushing towards this authoritarian, you know, almost dictatorship, the more people are pulling towards something a lot closer to the Canadian political system, like Miracle had highlighted, and I had said before about these new parties coming up, right? These people with these new ideas. And I remember in high school, I had a POD teacher who would always jokingly say to me that Canada is what happens when democracy goes right. Now, we know that that's not really accurate, but in terms of the people having more of a say politically, because there's so many different federal representations of political parties, it gives you more of an option to vote, even though they often mirror America, they often mirror England. But I do think that this is a very transformative moment because you have the commander-in-chief, the supreme federal office in America going one direction, and then you have more and more voters and more people who are engaging going the complete opposite direction, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely think that, you know, this was a big fuck you moment to Donald Trump and the current regime. Yeah. I do think this was, again, Miracle highlighted it very, very articulately about how Black people are organizing around this. And we all know that the moment Black people get involved with something, it becomes popular, it becomes sexy, it becomes marketable, even if for not the most genuine reasons. It's something that's marketable because, you know, Black people are always going to sway, you know, that kind of cultural metric, right? That meter. And on social media, there has been so much talk, so much verbiage that sounds like Black people are writing things, right? And I think that's also another big thing that I've noticed is that a lot of the language, a lot of the pieces, whether it's on Thread or Twitter, it's coming from Black people, and if not, then it's imitating the way Black people sound because that's what people are relating to, like right there. And I think that this is one of these moments now where you're going to, again, and we're just like kind of rehashing what I said earlier, but people are going to are kind of being held accountable to their own miscomings, to where we have to recognize, all right, like this is what people want, right? Yeah. They want something provocative. They want to get the people going, right?
But like you said, I think people also like are realizing like it is less affordable to live in the United States now. Like 1 million people have lost jobs under Donald Trump. 1 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's be very honest about that. Like these 1 million people aren't just baristas or the people that you talk down on in your ads, like, oh, these are just Snap. But no, these are people who have heads of nonprofits, people who have close to 6-figure jobs. Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe like a high 5-figure paying job, right? They're not balling, but they live okay, right? Yeah. These are people all across the economic spectrum that are looking at unemployment right now. In a way, it's not just factory workers. It's not just frontline workers. It's not just like barbers and, you know, people that you don't really think about as a part of the American building block.
And put that on on top of, you know, the government employees, all those government employees that lost their jobs and was cut. Yeah. What the ramifications of those are, more than 30 days now, more than a month, government employees not being paid, right? Yeah. Traffic control folks, you know what I'm saying?
ATC operators,
right. And then put that
think
on
about how this impacts.
Right. Well, I was going to say, and then put that on top of now, Snap, you know, even though a court ordered Donald Trump to pay Snap benefits, he's still saying he's not going to, or they're saying that, oh, they're going to release some of the benefits, but not all of these benefits, right? So when you put all that together, and then groceries are already higher than they've ever been, you put all that together, like, it's not they're like, America's not better now than it was in January. It's not better. It's worse. It's much worse. My question for you, Miracle, is, and Farouk as well, like, at what point do we think we'll see Republicans breaking from Donald Trump in this moment? Like, as he continues, I mean, he's tearing down the White House. I mean, Donald Trump had, like, it's like, and you talked about his delusion, Farouk, right? His arrogance and delusion. He had a great Gatsby-themed dinner.
Yeah.
On the eve of 42 million Americans were going to lose benefits to get food, most of them children. He's in the White House having these extravagant dinners. He's flying to Asia. He's flying to the Middle East. They're working on they're spending $1 billion to refit this plane he got from Qatar. They're tearing down the White House to build some giant ballroom. And they're bringing in Argentinian beef and hooking up. I mean, sending 40 million to Argentina while and this is the last piece. We're about to go into the season where most retailers for the year, we're about to go into Christmas.
I was just about to talk about that.
And when that shit, when nobody spends money on this Christmas because we don't have it, right? We talked about last episode how these SNAP benefits actually affect the stores. You know what I'm saying? Now, like, will that be the moment? What is this, or will there be a moment soon where these Republicans start to say, yo, we're not with what Donald Trump is doing as he continues to get more unpopular?
I think so. I'm going to get to both of those points as kind of like succinctly as possible. The first point about the finances and everything, we're seeing this rapid downward spiral, this economic accretion into just like disparity, right? And it's not just about what happens at Black Friday and this high retail part of the season, but think about right now as like as you're off break, right? Or you're off school, the children are home more time. That means you're going to have to spend more money on food to feed them. Your electric bill is going to go up. Your heat bill is going to go up. Your hydro bill is going to go up. All these bills are going to go up, right? Your cable bill pretty much stays the same, but like, your bills are going to start becoming compounding.
And they're already going up because we got these big ass data centers,
right?
Also taking, adding to our bills.
And then additionally, think about the things that aren't necessarily luxury items, but like if you have children that get sick and have to go hospital, or you have to go to the dentist, these people are not collecting because we don't have a socialized system, right? And I think that this is going to be a push towards socialized or universal healthcare, because now it has to be a conversation, right? Now becomes something that you have to have this part of the conversation.
They were saying more people are defaulting on car loans now. Like, bro, it's not even just house loans.
I get it. And it's funny because this is as Trump was pushing back, specifically during the World Series, once again on Canada, you're looking more and more again, like, okay, how are these other so-called first world nations doing their systems, right? Whether it's the HMS in England, or the Canadian system, the Australian system, like wherever. Now we have to look at that as, where are these people who are in need going to turn to for assistance, for bills, for heat, for medical, and all these other things. Now, to the other point about
when it gets cold.
When it gets cold, right? Now, your other point is like, are we going to see this Republican schism, right? I think what a lot of people are looking towards right now, ironically enough, is Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of being a fringe part of, right? Like, who's seen that on the bingo card? Like Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of, right? Like, this crazy. Now, and I also seen that, like, Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Marjorie Taylor Greene don't agree with us. They're just agreeing on certain points that we're making, right? They're not with us. Right. But I think that is a case study and something to be paid attention to as it is, because they are not interested in the way the current Republican regime is heading right now. That trajectory has now fallen out of favor with them, or maybe they've fallen out of favor with the current regime. I don't know, however you want to frame it.
Won't happen, yeah. But again, who knew? Miracle, I want to bring you in. And also, remember, a report just came out that said billionaires under Donald Trump have gained $700 billion. So while we're losing jobs, we're suffering, groceries is high, beef is high, gas is high, coffee is high, we're struggling, we can't get food. Billionaires who could, kick us down some money for us, whatever, have increased their wealth by $700 billion. Clearly, this is not sustainable. Miracle? What's happening?
Yeah.
What?
What?
You kind of like, yeah.
Well,
God, that's Miracle.
None of this really is sustainable, but again, like I say all the time, we could have high-speed rail, but for billionaires, right? We could have so much better policies, whether it's a grocery store on every corner, but for billionaires. And so I do think it's very, very important that people understand the changes that need to happen and the changes that need to come. Now, I am not encouraging anyone to do harm to billionaires, to be very clear. People like to accuse me of saying things that I do not say. But what I'm saying is I think there's a responsibility that billionaires have to our communities to invest and to make sure we have the things that we need to live and thrive. One billionaire can make sure we have no student loan debt. One billionaire can make sure we have affordable housing. One billionaire could just make sure we have access to education, fully funded schools. But instead, they've made sure that we've had AI that replicates voices of Black people to go online and say we have 8 baby daddies, 20 kids, and are upset that we don't have SNAP benefits. Like, I think we need to be very, very clear about what billionaires have been investing in and why they have been investing in things. They've been investing in weapons that can disintegrate people's bodies. They've been investing in surveillance that can track and create databases of Black people and immigrants and queer people and trans people. They've been investing in tracking tools that determine when and where you have your period, right? These things are very, 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 very fascist in nature. And so we have to be very honest about the conditions that we are in, but also give people the tools to be like, we don't have to live this way. And a better world is possible and inevitable because, like, nobody wants to live in this billionaire playground where they have no creativity, where everything is gentrification gray and on a rectangle block, architecture, and then there's no food, there's no travel, airplanes we don't even know are even going to be in existence, next month if the government shutdown continues. We are in, let's be very clear, we are in this situation because billionaires, right? When we talk about money and politics, the majority of these Republicans wouldn't even be in office if it weren't for AIPAC, right? We would have a fully functioning government if it wasn't for billionaires taking over our democracy, because people like the chaos. These billionaires are not voting for you and I as working class people. They're not voting for parents. They're not creating systems where people can be, radically included. They're creating things for their bottom dollar because they need more money.
And bigger yachts. And it's kind of like, how much, okay, once you hit 100 billion, your children, you're good. How much do you need?
More.
How much more? You want to be
a Scott. And they were like, just the interest, all the money she gives out is just the interest on the money that she is making. Yeah. Right? She has so much money that she gives out so much, but it still makes some, just based on the interest of the stuff that she already owns.
Mackenzie Scott is probably that's the billionaire people should be looking to. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Mackenzie Scott. I think she just donated to Howard University, their medical school. There was another HBCU she donated. But yeah, again, it's like, why not? I mean, you have all this money. You'll never be able to spend it. why not use it to make people's lives better instead of using it to do the bullshit that y'all currently doing? I mean, it makes no sense. I do want to ask this question because this has been a pretty interesting story. J.D. Vance did some conversation somewhere.
Was he at a furniture store?
Those aren't recorded. When he goes to the furniture store, bro, yeah, they got to turn off all the cameras in the furniture store.
You gotta get the OnlyFans content of JD Vance to see him in the furniture store.
You gotta buy the
subscription,
the $9.95 a month to see JD Vance going to the furniture store. No, he was somewhere. I think it was some religious place, but somebody asked him about his marriage. And, obviously J.D. Vance is part of the Trump administration, and they've been pushing this white supremacy that echoes Nazism in so many different ways, right? And so this woman asked, like, look, your wife is Hindu, right?
Yeah, he said,
She asked him about, like, how are you raising your children? Are you raising your children to be disrespectful to your wife's face? How are you raising them? And J.D. Vance basically said that he wants his wife to adopt Christianity. Like currently his wife is not a Christian. And I don't know, I mean, if his children are being raised Christian or not, or whose religion they're supporting, but we know his wife isn't. And he basically said he wanted his wife to be a Christian. A lot of Hindu Americans felt that was anti-Hindu to say that, to openly say that. And then there was this whole other conversation about how J.D. Vance hugged Charlie Kirk's wife, and that she then went on to say she sees a lot of Charlie Kirk in J.D. Vance. And people were saying, could this be J.D. Vance is going to, like, leave his wife and get with Charlie Kirk's widow, and then that's going to be like he's going to float into the White House? Miracle, do you have any thoughts on, I mean, it's almost like he kind of threw his wife under the bus.
Go ahead.
I saw something in regards to his wife, and it says, you have to remember, when you are a token, you will always be spent. And to sit there and say,
wow,
that
there you
when
go.
you sit there
you go.
and you aid and abet white supremacy, and you push anti-blackness, and you think that those tables will not turn, and you think that you will not be discarded, baby, you will always be spent. And the fact that he was like, I pray my wife changes her religion. Like, how ignorant do you have to be to go on social media and disparage the values and beliefs of the person you married, who brought you children into the world, right?
Yeah.
But, that's not my business. Whatever happens, happens. I do think that Trump will not run his third term. I do think J.D. Vance will be president, and in different ways. I feel like people, I said this before.
You think if J.D. Vance runs, he's going to win?
That's what I said. I think J.D.
Oh, you don't think Trump is going to finish out this term?
I think J.D.
No, she doesn't
Vance
think Trump will run for a third term.
I think J.D. Vance will be president long before Trump's term is off.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I think Trump is someone who is people are saying is sick. People are saying Netanyahu has cancer, Joe Biden has cancer. Yeah. People are saying, like, all these folks are sick.
It's almost like the more evil you are.
But they're also giving him dementia tests. So if they're giving him a dementia test, something is not right. So I agree with you in a sense.
I think something is happening, but I think you're starting to see that people want to move on. And I keep saying people are so exhausted, and I think that even his voters are starting to be like, look, and I said this to somebody the other day, Black unemployment, the highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Undocumented people being kidnapped, highest it's ever been. White people are still suffering. So all the things you promised that we're going to make it better for white people has not materialized. They're going to start to turn. And you're starting to see, even in these town halls, they're like, why are you supporting Israel? Why are you supporting Ukraine? I think Argentina was, for some people, their last
That was the
I think that
last
was the
straw.
straw. I think Argentina, for a lot of folks, they were like, "What the hell? What the helly?"
Yes.
Like, I think that. And I saw a report where somebody was like, people took a risk on Trump this last time because he was the only one who was talking to their issues. And I keep saying this again. Harris lost. I'll always say, like, put Israel aside. Harris lost because she stopped talking to the people's issues because she chose her donors instead. The minute she went for the National Restaurant Association and moved away from workers, it was a wrap, right? And I think that so many workers went for Trump. So many unions went for Trump. This shutdown hurts them. These tariffs hurt them. It's just bad. Like,
these farmers out here.
Everybody is just like,
crushed.
everyone is suffering. I don't even like him as a person, but Corey Holcomb had said that, like, you can't even, you can't even be flashy right now. Like, the money is dried up. It has run stale. There is no water in the well. Like, this recession is really effing people over in ways that we cannot even think about. And that's all at Trump's feet. It's not, you can't even blame the Democrats. This is all something that Trump did. And people are like, nah, bruh, we did the hate. I can hate all day, but I want to be hate and fed instead of being hate and hungry and homeless and depressed and with no resources. And so
no, I think just to get back to J.D. Vance's wife, like you said, I mean, once you sign up for one of the most virulent forms of white supremacy, like, you're a liability. Like, any darker skinned person is a liability when you're, ramping up and when you're building this tent of these white supremacist, people. So, like, those children and her become liabilities to JD Vance, and people would rather see, again, if you're building this, the master race or whatever they called it, who's going to look better on your arm? Some blonde white woman? Or this brown Indian woman who has a funny name and a funny religion? You know what I mean? That's different.
I wonder where Vivek Ramaswamy sits on this situation.
I mean, well, again, there was video I sent where Vivek is talking to these white people are coming out and they're like, "You're not a Christian."
Yeah.
He's like, "No, but I believe in Christian values." They're like, "You're not a Christian." One of JD Vance's sons, I believe, is named Vivek. And people were saying, like, "Oh, you didn't even give your sons American names." You know what I'm saying? So again, it's like, and by the way, JD Vance's brother, I guess he ran for.
He just lost, in Cincinnati.
He ran for mayor of Cincinnati. He lost. But it'll be interesting to see, again, if JD Vance, he named his son after Vivek Ramaswamy. Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Oh, shit. Damn. That's a little cuck.
I mean, but let me say something right here. And I don't know if I'm the person.
Wait, hold on. I'm not gonna name my son after your friend. Like,
all the time. I don't think this that weird. I don't think this that weird.
It's kind of weird.
Because, like, Dalton Varsho, baseball player, his dad named him after his best friend on the team that he played with. So he was like, "I'm gonna name." Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't personally do it, but I know people. I don't think it's that weird.
Like, mentor.
Walk in with the Siri Junior. Like, what is going on? Absolutely not.
That's again, but maybe again. I didn't know that. I didn't know him and Vivek were
I didn't know that neither. But I think of all the things that are concerning and eyebrow raising of JD Vance, that's the least on my list personally. That doesn't set off any bells and whistles. But the thing I do want to say, though, and again, I don't know if I'm the person to have this conversation with this community, but how JD Vance's wife, I don't know her name. I don't know anything really about her, and I don't want to say, "Oh, this is just JD Vance's wife." But
her name is Usha. Is that how you pronounce it?
Usha. Is it Usha?
Yeah. USHA.
Okay, yeah, Usha. Okay.
She's a lawyer.
This is also a conversation that has to be had within the Indian communities and how much they praise being with white people, right? How much they uphold white supremacy by telling their children, if you're not going to marry an Indian person, marry a white person, right? Get as far into the assimilation of the dominant society that you can, because they replicate something very closely with their caste system in India. And the way that, again, Miracle said, if you live your life as a token, you're going to get spent. I don't know what her family feels about the situation, right? What, like, you know, do they fear for her children, their grandchildren's lives? Do they fear for their lives? Did they see how Vivek was treated? Did they see how Uch is being treated, right? Is this a conversation now that you have to go and unpack when you leave your white husband or your white wife and go back to because just as Black people, you can't change how you look. No. You are a melanated brown person that's navigating the world in a space that is not welcoming to you.
People do be doing the whole lightning stuff, but
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. But you know, that's just my piece right there. That's one of those chickens coming home to roost moments.
I did see an Instagram video of a Black woman that like had the surgery. I don't know if y'all saw it. She had like surgeries to become a white woman, and she looks so much worse.
Stacey Dash?
No, she was some random. She like whitened her skin. She had like she looks so much worse. But anyway,
Stacey Dash.
What I will say is anti-Blackness is global, right?
Absolutely.
When they think about imperialism and colonialism, those things ran on anti-Blackness, and so for a lot of folks, their communities and their identity to America is to hate on Black people.
Absolutely.
And I think you've seen this, you know, particularly with Cuomo. And I think you even saw this in Summerlee's last race, is people have been trying to find other ethnicities that do not like Black people or do not like Muslim people, and to try to use them to push out violence and hate and to throw our communities in tension with each other. And so I do think it's great that we're having this conversation. I think we have to talk about the Hindu Vita moment. I think you have to talk about a lot of these supremacist ideologies and how they're all connected and intertwined together, and they're all based on harming darker skinned people. But there is a legacy of anti-Blackness. I also think that there needs to be a conversation about anti-Blackness in the Arab world and in the Arab communities and the Muslim communities. And you saw a lot of those conversations really happening with, again, Mamdani campaign and leaning into those. And I really appreciated when Mamdani talked about Islamophobia. He made sure to be around Black Muslims. I think that I juxtaposed, I forgot the imam they were saying was, you know, this terrorist, how Mamdani didn't throw him under the bus, and how that kind of juxtaposes with Obama and Reverend Jeremiah Wright.
Absolutely.
And it's, again, the lesson that we've learned: do not throw away your people. You keep and you fight for your people. And I think that there's a lot of healing we have to do. And speaking of healing, I don't want to heal with anyone. I feel like people, you chose your side, you stay on your side, and you stay away from me. But for other folks, I feel like we do need to have some healing conversations, some accountability conversations to make sure that we are building a better world, because, like I say, the world is a globe. Where are people going to go?
Mars.
Where are people going to go? It's the way of the world. The world is a dumpster fire. But this, you know, Sherman marched to the sea. He destroyed the South, but the South was able to rise again with better infrastructure, you know, having internal heating and cooling. And so sometimes you can rise as a phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah.
And build better.
Well, we'll see if the Democratic Party rises with Mamdani as like the Luke Skywalker figure, you know what I'm saying, against the empire of Donald Trump. We shall see. Do we have a book? Do we have a white pages this week? Farouk, are you? What's the book?
Can we do this?
What are we looking at?
A book.
Oh, yeah. Miss Major Speaks, Conversation with a Black Trans Revolutionary. Did we do that one, Miracle?
I don't think so.
Okay. Shout out to Miss Major. I don't think so either. With that being said, do we have anything coming up? Oh, well, by the time this runs, we will be doing our Art vs. AI event. And I think, right, we don't have anything coming up soon, though, right?
So Art versus AI, and then November 21st and 22nd, we're doing the Fall of Freedom, artist conversation talk back November 21st. Also doing a food drive. I forgot what the name of that is. So again, we keep each other safe. We support each other. So that's some of the things that are going to be happening upcoming. And again, if you're in the Pittsburgh area, by the time you see this, there'll be a conversation about anti-blackness because, another bureau's employee was videotaped saying some slurs, and Councilman Fred Quinn, we put this on the C4 side of things, talked about some of the racism and anti-blackness that he has had to undergo and experience as elected official. And I think that we need to really have a conversation on how we engage and we use Black people to labor and do not protect them when they encounter violence and racism. That's a conversation for another day, but I just want to point that out, that this type of behavior, if you think people are going to, allow racism and anti-Blackness to permeate our city, you are wrong. If you think anti-Blackness is not going to go unchecked, you are wrong. So that's all.
Come on, that's right. We checking all folks that step out of line. With that being said, this has been final words, Farouk.
I'm still heartbroken, so I really don't have a lot of words.
Squabble up. The Blue Jays lost the World Series, so you know what I'm saying. Kendrick in LA victorious again. over
That doesn't bother me the way you think it does, but losing the World Series the way we lost bothers me.
I was with a brother from Toronto yesterday. Felt the same way. You know what I'm saying? A South Asian brother. Shout out to him. We was building.
Is he from
Miracle,
Brampton?
final words. I didn't ask what neighborhood.
Beef bacon is a superior bacon.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Beef bacon is, yeah.
Okay.
All
right. And that's what Mamdani gets on his sandwiches when he goes to bodega.
Beef bacon, chopped cheese.
With the jalapenos. You feel me?
I had such a wonderful time in New York. Shout out to E-Maze when it sold out premieres.
Wait. Just announced. All pork products are banned in New York City.
There we go.
Stay away from the swine. The swine is not your friend.
The Mamdani reign begins.
Yeah, man. Is that?
What? Were you saying something?
I said, does that mean he's defunding the NYPD?
We're out on that note.